Alfresco webinar, Managing Claims Content Chaos with Intelligent Content Services. We've still got a whole bunch of people joining us, so we're going to give them a minute or two to join. But in the meantime, you should see a poll open on your screen. If you could just take a moment to complete that poll, that'll give us some interesting insights into the audience, and we'll probably be able to dive in a bit more into what the results tell us in the panel discussion later. So it'd be great if you could just complete that poll, and we'll kick off in a couple of minutes. Thank you. Okay, so I can see we have a good number of people coming in, so now maybe a good time to close the poll and kick off. Very good. So as I said, welcome everybody to today's webinar by Alfresco on managing the claims content chaos with intelligent content services. I am delighted today. My name is Theo Hildyard of Alfresco, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Sandy Kemsley and Dave Giordano. Sandy is a renowned industry and technology analyst with a special focus on insurance and banking, as well as ECM and BPM. She has a special interest in how the convergence of these two disciplines is influencing digitization. Dave is a founder and insurance practice lead at TSG, a long-standing and strategic implementation partner of Alfresco's. The TSG and Alfresco relationship spans some 12 years and some of our largest and most important insurance customers. Okay, so let's take a look at the agenda. The good news is we're off to a quick start. We've already got rid of the number one, welcome and introductions. Next up, we'll have a very short presentation from Sandy, giving her insights into the claims situation within insurance companies. We'll then flip over to Dave for a similar kind of prezzo to get his perspective, and then we'll leave plenty of time at the end for a pretty involved panel discussion on some of the insights that the presentations raise. We'll then leave some time at the end for Q&A, of course. So with that said, let's kick off. Over to you, Sandy.
Thanks, Theo. It's great to be here today. As you mentioned, I'm an independent industry analyst covering business automation technologies, including process and content, but I also spend quite a bit of my time as a consultant to end customer organization on technical strategy and architecture. So I've spent a lot of time with financial services and insurance sectors looking at things like claims operations up close, and hope to be able to share some of those insights today. Next slide, please. So over the years, I've seen insurance companies undergo a significant shift in focus. It used to be that they were primarily interested in improving the sales end of the cycle, namely new business and underwriting, and just considered claims to be a cost center that could poke along with paper files and inflexible processes and things like that. What happened, though, is that the cost of insurance coverage became much more transparent over the years and therefore became commoditized. Everyone could get an online quote from several different providers, and then they could pick the one that had the best options. So the consumers were now looking at service levels to determine what carrier to go with, and that really brought claims to the forefront because that's where the service tends to happen. So now the claims are becoming a competitive differentiator when consumers are purchasing insurance. They're actually looking at how well that companies are paying claims, or what their claim service looks like, before they decide on where to buy their insurance coverage. The problem is that a lot of insurance companies are now playing catch up to get their claims operations in order. Now, paper claim files just aren't cutting it for most consumers, but I still see those in a lot of operations. So these are people, the consumers are people who are ordering their Starbucks online, and then they see exactly how many minutes it will be before they can pick it up. They want to be able to file a claim online and see the progress of that claim as it moves through towards resolution. They're going to be checking social media, online reports, websites, everything else, to see exactly what level of service that they can expect if they have to file a claim. And this isn't just millennials. It's really consumers right from the boomers on down expect to have online access and some sort of instant update. Now, it's not just, of course, the consumers looking at the claims performance. We have a number of other factors that are making a big difference in claims. So we have completely new insurance business models that are happening. One of the ones that I've been looking at recently is parametric insurance. And what parametric insurance does is it monitors certain parameters or events, such as weather, and then it pays customers out automatically without them even filing a claim. So they have algorithms that estimate, for example, the amount of damage that they can expect when a Category 3 hurricane blows over your wheat fields, and it sends out a claim amount to cover that. There's also new technologies being used in claims. Like, we all know about some straight-through processing for simple claims, but it's way more than that. I saw a case study of Allstate Insurance that was using drones to check for roof damage after hurricanes, so that they don't have to send out an adjuster who's going to spend a half day getting to your house and climbing up on your roof. Instead, they can see from the drone footage what is exactly your roof looks like and do an estimate of your claim amount from that. We also see some online models that are really interesting. So Lemonade, this is an online app-based insurance carrier, and they're focused on renters insurance, mostly in the New York City market, and they let you make a claim with just a few clicks on the app, and then also they take a video deposition of you talking about your claim, which serves as a way for them to ensure that you're being truthful about your claim, because this could be used if there was any fraud in the future. And the thing is they can pay out claims in less than 3 minutes if everything is straightforward, which is pretty astounding. Most of us are not in the position to be looking at a 3-minute claim payout, but they can certainly do it in some sort of cases. We're also seeing some new regulations and laws that are impacting insurance claims, and insurance companies, they can't just process your claim like they used to 20 years ago. We've had a few catastrophic weather events, such as Hurricane Katrina, and for longer ago, the ice storms in Quebec. Several insurance companies were the target of class action lawsuits because they took too long to process claims. So we already had regulations around the response time for the first notice of loss, or the FNOL, that would come in. But now there's also regulations that govern settlement of claims in a timely manner. So a lot of different factors that are making insurance claims this new competitive differentiator. Let's move to the next slide and look at some of the challenges that we're seeing in claims processing. Now, the commercial off-the-shelf claims management systems are really good at their core functionality, but they're not very flexible when it comes to doing things that aren't part of that core functionality. One of that is the content that's associated with the claim. These systems are not content management systems, and they really make no bones about it. And most of the scenarios that I've seen where I've worked with insurance clients to develop a technical strategy will have a content management system integrated together with the claims management system. There can also be some issues around processes that aren't handled in the claims management system. For example, when you have an FNOL come in, often until the point when a claim is created, there's nothing in the claims management system, and that might get handled on paper, or just get documents that come in by fax or by email just get emailed around, and there's no sort of standardized processes around that. So I look at both the process and the content that has to be added around these claims management systems in order to make them work more effectively. Now, the disasters that I mentioned on the previous slide, like the natural disasters, these are a huge challenge because you can get spikes in the volume of claims quite unexpectedly. You can have hurricanes, you could have floods and storms, you could even have industrial accidents that impact homeowners. And that means that the claims operations get completely overwhelmed by new claims. And if they can't quickly process as these come through, they're in danger of violating regulations and then also ending up with some really unhappy customers. So we have to be able to look at claims systems, and by the system, I don't just mean the claims management system, but the entire system of people and automation and computerized tools that manage claims. This has to be scalable to be able to handle these volumes. Now we're seeing a lot of efficiency and automation things that are being handled, that are being added in claims. We're definitely not in the position of getting rid of all those claims adjusters. So as I point out here, like, don't fire everybody yet. And there's also, we are seeing some very simple adjudication situations that could be automated, but often these are still handled by adjusters manually, so that when they could be spending their time on more complex claims. As I was at a conference recently, and there was an insurance company that did property type insurance, but they did it for very specialized scenarios. And what they found is that their claims adjusters were highly specialized people, often with a law degree, who were doing the adjudication, but they were handling even the simplest administration tasks that they needed to in order to get the claims done. So they were doing a lot of things that probably could be automated, but hadn't been automated yet. So we need to look at ways to manage that so that these highly skilled adjusters aren't ending up doing the admin work. Sometimes, because the claims operations are getting squeezed, the admin people aren't there anymore, and sometimes it's just not worth the time and effort to have the handoffs in the process. So next slide, please. Now, I'm all about process. For those of you who have followed anything that I write about, is I definitely write a lot about process, but content for me is such an important part of that as well. It's as we look in claims, that claims case folder is the essential record of what happened and why it happened, and that's where content comes in. So it's going to have information that's created internally by the insurance company, by external field adjusters, by medical professionals, by the claimant, other insurance companies or claimants who are party to the claim. You can have a lot of different people who are sending in information. And this might be documents, it could be paper documents, it could be electronic documents, it could be video, audio, photos, whatever it is. All of these go into the claim file, and they're all used to, they're accessed constantly during claim processing. Now, for long-running claims, such as medical disability, these files can get huge. I've certainly seen scenarios where, with a paper file, we're talking about 2 or 3 feet worth of linear space in a file cabinet taken up for a single claim folder. Another thing that's a little bit of a challenge is that sometimes these documents or this claim folder needs to be shared with other parties. So it might have to be transferred if we're doing something like reinsurance or subrogation, or a claim goes to litigation. Part of that record might need to be transferred as well. So we need to be able to say, here are all the documents that make up the claim. Here's why we made this particular claim decision. Now, in some claims operations, there might be some automated classification of content. If you have, for example, a customer uploads a document, they might do classifications such as, this is this particular type of form, or this is a photo of the damage, but there might be nothing at all. You could get in any kind of file in a paper or content in a digital or paper format. You could get photos on a USB stick. You could get video on a CD. Like it's these things can come in a number of different ways, and often they require some amount of manual review and classification before they can be added to the claim folder, or before you even know what claim they belong to. So without some sort of content classification, it's really difficult to find the content that you're looking for, especially when you're looking at a very large claim folder. So these are the content. The claim is really backed up by the content. The content is critical to the claim file, but we have a lot of challenges with how that content is manually classified and analyzed. And I know, Theo, that Dave is going to talk a little bit about some of the classification and how that can work. So I'd like to move things along then to him.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy. That was really interesting. But just before we do cross over, actually, I've just got a quick question for you, if you don't mind. So the whole idea that this rich content is being classified and manually analyzed, anecdotally is fine. But anecdotally, how much effort or wasted hours do you think typical insurers waste on people manually reviewing rich media content, like, I don't know, video, for example?
There
And
can
I know it's a tough question, so just anecdotally is fine.
Yeah, no, there can be quite a bit. And in a lot of operations, I see things like just looking at documents or content and figuring out what they are and where they go can consume as much as, maybe 20% of a claims adjuster's time. So we're not talking an admin now. We're talking about a claims adjuster who is highly skilled and probably relatively highly paid. To have to look at these, decide whether they're important or not, decide where they belong, and then get them into the right place. So there might be some of this that can be done ahead of time to be able to triage some of that. Like, you really want to be able to prioritize and assign that work that's set before it gets to the claims adjusters. But I'm seeing a lot of it being done by the adjusters, which is that's a big problem in terms of the time spent.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dave, you're going to drill into this topic in a bit more detail, I'm sure. So maybe now's a good time to click over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Theo. So next slide, Theo. As Theo mentioned, TSG is a longtime Alfresco partner. We offer both software and services to our clients to help them implement these insurance solutions. You're going to see a demo or some screenshots of a demo at the end of my presentation. In regards to insurance, though, we've been doing it since 2001. And, I'm going to talk about some of the bigger clients, but everything from a small client like New York property insurance underwriters to some of the large clients I'm showing down here with 400 and 350 million, for an auto insurer, a third party administrator with 1 billion documents that we migrated from a custom system. And then even some of our large health insurance clients with 2 billion and 4 billion documents that are migrating from Mobius and Image Plus as well as FileNet. So in regards to the insurance industry, I think this digital transformation that's happening, and this is from one of my clients, is, in the 1980s, it was all about the insurance operating system, or that mainframe-based collection of data, client, claim number, claim dates, reserves, and payments. As we move into the 90s, we really started seeing the image management systems, whether those were doc management, early doc management, FileNet systems, TIFF viewers, scanning paper, the paperless environment hit. But as we look at going forward into 2019 and beyond, as Sandy mentioned, and we'll talk about more in detail, just more stuff coming from the cloud, real-time capabilities. All these different devices are driving the need for change of those systems that a lot of what we're seeing was built in the 1990s. So when we look at this tipping point, we really look at, and Sandy mentioned it as far as the video depositions or the drone files, all of this new media is coming in to these systems that were built in the 90s for processing paper. And while we've seen clients adjust and tweak, it really drives the need for something like Alfresco and the new capabilities. So for smarter content, we need a smarter repository, and that's where we're seeing these clients start to tip into looking at Alfresco as that option. And an important thing to know is just what's happening with the size of these documents. So, I'm showing some dash cams from an accident with 3 cameras, on the dash, the driver, and the passenger. We had a client, much more on the that I'm going to talk about later on the workers' comp side, that for an accident at a work site needed to capture 30 minutes of video before the accident, 30 minutes of video after the accident from every camera in the store. That's a huge amount of content. You're seeing, this was from my one client saying it rose from 4 kilobytes to 400 megabytes. We would even expect that it goes into the gigabyte range, the more video and the more high definition that we're capturing, among other files. So, and from the spending side, if we look at the core insurance platforms, really, post 9/11, if you want to advance the slide, Theo, it really was, hey, in 9/11, it was all about, spending, my client calls it the guide wire decade, was it was all about spending on that insurance operating system with a little bit of money spent on doc management, but pre 9/11, everybody had invested in the paperless side. What we're seeing now is, hey, I need to spend on my doc management to get that up to speed with all these modern types of content and get off of these older platforms. And that brings up a good point, and Sandy can jump in here as well, is we like to talk about the insurance operating system owning the claim, but then when we look at doc management, having it own the documents with really tight integration between the two. So when we build these systems, we're not responsible for the claimant name or the claim number or the reserves or the payments. We're really focused on the content and document enabling the client's insurance operating system, whether that be a guide wire or, you know, even with our health insurance, maybe even a Salesforce type insurance operating system. Sandy, did you want to jump in and give your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, certainly the things that I've seen as being there where there is this separation between that claims management system, you know, the Guidewire or Duck Creek or whatever it is, or some sort of other, you know, a legacy system in there, and the content management that holds all of the other content. And the challenge that I see is having that integration happen in a way that really works for the claims adjusters when they need to be able to do things. They don't want to just be dumped into a folder that has 100 documents in it. They need to be able to say, okay, I need to narrow down and see only the photographs from this particular incident or this particular aspect of the case so that I can review those rather than having to go through all of them. So the nature of that integration and is really important, and a lot of that has to do with the content classification.
Thanks. So now what we're saying is, you know, if we acknowledge that those two are separate, and most often today we're seeing an updated insurance operating system with an old custom doc management system. As we look at the future for tomorrow, that same insurance operating system tied to a more modern doc management system, but that allows clients to step into the future of a new insurance operating system, whoever comes along or however they want to do that, again, with a modern doc management system. Decoupling these really gives our clients the ability to let them upgrade in steps and take advantage of the modern doc management system without having to upgrade their whole insurance operating system. We also think cloud adds a significant push. You know, the cloud is very good at managing documents. So we've had a lot of success with AWS and Azure and even Google now with these clients that are looking for cloud first and cloud only, replacing non-cloud. So now it's not just replacing the legacy system that is built for paperless, but can I get rid of some of that infrastructure that I'm nervous about? I have one FileNet client that says, you know, the second biggest worry is what happens if FileNet goes down. We don't have the people to support it. We don't know what, you know, it's been on life support for so long. The cloud gives them the advantage of people that know it, saving on the infrastructure costs, and now getting these capabilities that are not available on premise. So whether it comes to external parties like a claimant uploading the video themselves to something like Amazon S3, geographically dispersing that content where it needs to be, with the idea that from an elastic scaling side, if I have a disaster incident where I want to add a lot more claim adjusters, I can actually add more robustness to my server to be able to handle that volume. Go ahead, next slide, Theo.
And Dave, just a point on that, I think we finally reached a tipping point as well in insurance. Insurance is such a conservative industry, especially in certain markets, and they've been very averse to the cloud, but I think we're finally getting to the point where they're saying, no, we really have to go to the cloud to get the kind of performance that we need, scalability, and geographic coverage.
Yeah, totally agree. So the one, I'm going to talk a little bit more just about a reference client. So this is a third-party administrator on workers, with mostly focused on workers' comp. So if you look at all the different types of content and all the different sources, so whether that's from the insured, whether that's from the carriers, the brokers, the doctors, and the claimants themselves, they're getting all types of content. And a lot of these, as you look at what's underneath here, are what we would call born digital. So they are electronic from the beginning. There isn't as much paper scanning as there is just, hey, I need to ingest and file these away. And as part of working and with workers' comp, typically a longer tail claim, this claim that could last for years or more. So go to the next slide. With Alfresco, we started out with 1 billion objects in the repository. So 3,300 internal users, 27,000 external users. They leverage the products you're going to see a little bit from TSG, Open Content Case and Open Annotate. And from their custom system, we were able to use Open Migrate to move them over to Alfresco at roughly about 250 documents a second. We continue to add 250,000 new documents a day, and the biggest claim file that we've tried to make efficient, as Sandy mentioned, has 65,000 and counting documents going into it. We were able to reduce that billion with some deduplication efforts and some other archival efforts down to 600 million. We're back up to 700 million in the repository as of today. So in tying into efficiency, and I have some demos to show, but we really look at, for this client, they were able to justify the new system by having more efficient and a platform for building access to the claim folders. So efficient viewing of content, that view, navigate, the analysis, annotate, redact. But it had to be intuitive because, as I just mentioned, they have their clients that are coming in here. They do not train their clients on how to use the interface. They also wanted to be able to add adjusters, quickly. This isn't so much for my third-party administrator, but for my auto insurer for spikes in claims. Also, when we look at efficiency, the manipulation of content, and I'll talk about it as we get later into the demo, but combining and extracting pages to produce new content is something that we found a lot of benefits in. And then the efficient ingestion and distribution of content. So how can I spend less time tagging and analyzing content? Can I leverage machine learning and other tools to do it for me to make that claim adjuster more efficient? But then also we're looking at, hey, I'm doing stuff with that. How can I do more multi-channel customer communication or just outbound communication of the content? Okay, so go to the next slide. So if you go to the blog site from TSG, we blogged and there's a demo out there. I didn't want to take up our time on this one by going through a demo, so I just included some screenshots. And I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, but if they bring up questions, we can always come back. So we always talk about, and Sandy brought this up too, tight integration into the insurance operating system. So I'm showing Guidewire here, but if I'm in the insurance operating system and I want to view the documents, or view a specific document that maybe has just entered the system, that the doc management system has alerted the insurance operating system is there, I want to go ahead and be able to click on this document, and go ahead, Theo, and get right to that document. So we have a service level agreement with our client that step that you just saw has to take less than 2 seconds. So their ability to not only get right into the claim folder, but get right to that document they want to look at is something that we really focus on, efficiently be able to quickly view the document. But also, go ahead to the next slide, Theo. We also want to get them in the claim folder. And as Sandy mentioned, we want to get them in the claim folder to be able to see all the documents that are in there. But in this case, we're showing thumbnails. I'll show a list as well, but be able to efficiently work through which document do I need to look at. And again, this is one that we also have a service level agreement to get to 2 seconds. From the correspondence side, this is one that we learned real early on, getting the client out of Outlook and having them sending emails from the claim folder that get recorded in the claim folder, that have data populated from the internet operating system. So you're seeing claim number, date of loss, policy holder, templates. These are all things that make the adjuster a lot more efficient rather than looking in and out of Outlook. And then that ability to automatically record it along with its attachments to be able to quickly see it. So we want to keep the claim adjuster out of their email and in the system instead. We also showed, and Sandy mentioned it as well, that ability to, for our third-party administrator, workers' comp, thumbnails aren't as important. All documents kind of look similar, but that ability to quickly filter a list. So think of 65,000 documents. How can I just focus in on the ones I want with, a high-end search capability to filter, type ahead, sort by the column headings? Those are all things that our clients have built into the system. Hitting on the machine learning and other part, that indexing part of how can I make it, this is an easy one to say, hey, you should be seeing the document before you index it, so you know what it is. We can grab content, actual, double click on something on the image, it populates a tag, as well as leverage. This is where we're looking to leverage more machine learning to actually predict and automatically populate from a bulk indexing side of documents going into the claim. And the document composition, this isn't the greatest screenshot for this, but this is one where I sat in on a client training, and it was really interesting to see the old versus the new for this group of 30 people. This is the one that got them the most excited, was realizing how much time they spent downloading documents from the old system, working in Acrobat to massage them. Go ahead into the next slide, Theo. It's massage them into a better piece with bookmarks in it. Client had said that typically in the old system that took 20 minutes. With the new system, because we do it all within the claim folder and then store it back in the claim folder, it went down to 2 minutes. So that's an easy one to talk about where it comes to savings. Same thing with the outbound email. Can we do letters right from the claim system with templates, with population of data from the internet or the insurance operating system? And then just while we're viewing documents, we make it real easy to annotate. A lot of times for the bigger documents, we're seeing these annotates as, when we look at the efficiency of processing through a document, can serve as bookmarks to quickly look at, hey, what concerned the person that looked at this before me? Can I get down to where, using an annotation a little bit as a bookmark? But then also redaction. So we're showing here suggested redactions. We can easily do that with social security numbers and phone numbers for pattern recognition. But then we also have, go ahead, next slide, this idea of, hey, can we be a little smarter? We know in this case, Ron Swanson is the claimant. Can I decide to bulk redact across the claim folder anytime I find his name or his birth date? And so we have that capability that we've added for our clients. Some of the last couple of things we always show, hey, let's take advantage of the client's desktop to let them see more than one document, as well as to let them take advantage of kind of separate monitors. So if they wanted to, launch it into a tab and view it, they can do that as well. And then as Sandy mentioned, this video, one of the efficiencies we see is, if this is in a security cam video, it would be a 30-minute video. Does the first person need to look at it and the second person need to scan through the same thing? We provide the ability to do annotation, clip images, to hopefully direct those later people to quickly be able to get to the important parts of the video. And we actually have worked on with security videos where we can provide a highlighted video to prevent folks from having to comb through, more and more larger files and larger video. And lastly, where we think the market's going is more claim file analytics. So, that ability we're working with our clients to specify, hey, here's some interesting dictionary or words or other things that I want you to alert me about that are appearing within the documents. And as we go through the machine learning, that maybe as we tie in, what type of claim is it? Should we be seeing this? My client has pushed us to say, can I line that up on a timeline? So that, wait a minute, they were talking about neck pain. All of a sudden I got this new prescription. I got other stuff that's inconsistent with that. So we're adding more of that analytics because we have those smarter documents. So now that we have the documents in a readable format, can we start to do more of this stuff on a claim by claim basis? Okay, that was the end of the demo. Again, look to the blog site if you want to see a video of all that stuff, but I think with that, we're going to questions, Theo.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dave. That was great. So lots of different areas of efficiency there, and we're definitely going to drill into those in the panel discussion in a second. I just wanted to kick off, though, by stepping back to something you said in the middle of your presentation to make sure I understood it correctly. Did I understand correctly when you said that insurers are keen to decouple claims from the content process systems as much as possible because they've got an eye on the future and upgrading the claims platform systems, and they want as little pain as possible surrounding that? So decoupling is an obvious next step. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, I think it's, they've invested a lot over the last 15 years in that insurance operating system. And a lot of them are very happy with it, the way that it manages the data, but they're not happy with the document side of it. So we're definitely seeing them say, hey, we want to do better on the document side of it. A lot of that data-driven stuff does not, tie well to document-driven stuff. And a lot of the vendors that offer that don't necessarily offer the best doc management. But for those clients that are on the older ones, hey, exactly to your point of, hey, can I upgrade my documents because I need them today, but I want to position where I can upgrade my data as well. Sandy,
Right.
are you seeing something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that decoupling of the content, because that claims folder is such an important part of the record of what happened and why it happened. Having that separate from the claims operating system or the claims management system, if they look at how they upgrade, there's no upgrade path in most of those systems for how the content gets handled. So externalizing the content into a modern content management system gives them the option to then not worry about, oh, how are we going to move all that content over that's maybe partially stored in the claims management system and out on file shares or wherever.
Very good, very good. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we are going to have a panel discussion. I've got some interesting questions lined up. What we're going to do now, though, is have a second poll, just to gauge the temperature of the audience again. So you should be seeing that on your screen now. If you could just take a moment to complete that, that'd be great. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask the first of my questions to both Sandy and Dave. So. The first question is, the rising content that is attached to a claim is clearly already happening. It's been happening for a while, in fact, but the fact that we're even having this webinar suggests that insurers are not fully equipped to deal with the content. Now, I know that's a sweeping generalization, but let's go with that for a second. So assuming that's true, how do you think insurers are getting by right now? And if you'll allow me to get a 2-for-1 or a twofer, as they say, are they simply throwing people at the problem? What are they doing?
Well, I can start off. Yeah, I can start off, and definitely I think that throwing people at the problem is happening, and there's just a lot of the content. This content is streaming in. It's either not being managed very well, or it will be like one of the problems, as I said earlier, the challenges that we're having is that it's falling on the claims adjusters themselves to have to go through and figure out what this content is and what to do with it when they should be spending their time adjudicating a claim.
Absolutely, Dave. What's your take? Is it people or technology?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, right? They, the folks we've worked with are looking to make those adjusters more efficient because they don't want to just throw people at it, but they are. And I agree with Sandy. I think to answer the polling question, I see a lot of clients that would answer this D. I don't even have space to put, I get a memory stick with security videos. We don't put that in the system. We just manage it, almost like we would paper in a folder somewhere. So I do think the clients we're seeing, have been struggling for years and have developed workarounds. But they're starting to suffer as more and more of this digital content comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, storing USB sticks in a cabinet or in a file is kind of just kind of breaks down after a while, doesn't it? And the next question, and when we're done with the next question, we'll close the poll and see the results. But just the next question. So the word efficiency has definitely been a watchword for the day. And Dave, you gave some great examples of how different efficiencies can be, gained across the claims process. You kind of answered this question in some ways, but I wouldn't mind just returning to it if that's okay. I'm guessing there are a number of different ways insurers can drive efficiency. Specifically within the claims process, where are you seeing them getting the most efficiency gains? Where are you seeing them getting the most bang for their buck? So I don't know, side-by-side viewing or bulk redaction or whatever it might be. Where are they getting the most bang for the buck?
The one, I mentioned that case study as far as the combining of documents, as far as just how much, you think of that as a workaround, right? Is I need to send this new letter, I'm going to use Acrobat and I'm going to download all these things, that email, those day-to-day activities of when you get into the, hey, what do they do? How much time do they spend searching for documents? How much time do they spend just waiting for a document to appear? Those are little trickles that add up to a lot over time.
Right. And Sandy, I mean, you're out and about with insurers a lot, on the floor and seeing this up close, if you like. Where are you seeing them get it? Where they are getting efficiencies from this type of setup? Where are you seeing them getting the most benefit?
Definitely having the ability to go through the claims folder really quickly and do that sort of filtering of I need this type of content associated with this aspect of the claim file, especially when we're dealing with large claim files like disability, where you could have, as Dave mentioned, the one case where there's like 65,000 documents in one file, and you need to narrow it down to just a particular part of the case. So that's definitely showing some efficiency. But I think we're also seeing some things now. Dave mentioned earlier about getting people using the systems directly for doing things like correspondence and issuing documents and so on. I see still some large amount of sort of copy and paste. Oh, let me copy this out of the claim system and paste it into a Word document that I'll then use to generate a letter, and I'll store that on a file share. And you see that kind of thing, and it's like, yeah, that's just not a sustainable sort of operation in terms of efficiency or in terms of scaling.
Right. Okay. And I'm just going to dig, if you don't mind, I'm just going to dig a little deeper on the first part you said there, because let's take a claim folder of 65,000 items of content, for example. Getting efficiency when you're working with claims folders that size, is it okay just to have a simple search function across those files, or are we talking about something else? I mean, you could. In order to search a claims file that size, I'm assuming you're relying on there being really good tagging or metadata or whatever you'd like to call it across all of the files in there. But what happens if there isn't? I mean, how do you search a file that size?
Well, that's exactly the problem. Is it ends up being manual searches if there's not good classification of the data. Now that might be done by having subfolders of various sort of logical subfolders to do with different parts of the case. It can be through tagging, but if it's not, then you end up with all of these different. And it could be things out on file shares and so on where they're not properly organized either. So that is the only way to do it, is to have the documents or the content properly classified.
Yeah, and I think the enforcement, if we look at, when it comes to older systems, the enforcement of tagging, is something that, while it's I just want to drag it into the folder, that's kind of how that paper folder gets messy. We don't want to replicate that same problem. So we do enforce tagging, but then we do, we have other information. We know what the name of the document is. We know when it was stored. We can extract other things automatically from it to make that more efficient.
Yeah, the more you can automate that extraction and classification, the better.
Yeah, you guys have teed me up perfectly for the next question, actually, and that is, what role does AI and machine learning play in all of this? And I mean, we've just kind of touched on that in quite clearly, but clearly there's a role for AI and machine learning in sort of auto classifying the content if there isn't good metadata attached to it at the point of ingestion. So I think that we've sort of answered that question. So I guess I'd like to move on now to, what practical tips do you have to help insurers make use of AI to reduce all this manual effort? And then, as a follow-on question, is the goal to automate everything end to end, or is that just a bit too far? Is that just kind of a bit too much of a stretch?
Well, I could start with your second question first. I don't think the goal is to automate everything. The idea is to automate the things that can be automated and that don't add value. It's you want to be able to add in automation that will do things like classification, will do simple adjudication. But if you have a situation where it's better for the the customer to have a claims adjudicator involved, then you should have somebody involved in that. But it's really taking away all of the other things that they don't need to be focused on, so that they can focus on just providing the level of service to the clients that they can. So that means, from an AI and machine learning standpoint, is you can look at doing more than auto classification just of forms. Like, it's really easy if you have a standard claims form, for example, to do automated classification on it because it's structured data. But as soon as you get to unstructured data, somebody sends in a letter, even if it, or an email, and you have to be able to parse through that information. Or you start to get photos or videos, and you want to be able to do some recognition on those. So that's where we can start to see the application of machine learning and AI, is on doing that auto classification that will provide that first pass, that triage on the content, get it into the right folder, get it into the right place. And if it's something that needs to be looked at right away, raise the alert to the adjudicator to have them take a look at it, because it might have been untouched by human hands up to that point.
Yeah, and I would agree with Sandy from it's not necessarily looking to automate everything, automate as much as we can, but what we really see for AI and machine learning is we need smarter content. So when we look at our clients with these dumb TIFF files or other image-based files, we want to be able to analyze the written word in there. But then even with the video and some of the other stuff is, hey, can I store and manage those to be able to do with the picture better? For Sandy's example of the roof thing, can I automatically do that, with more machine learning paradigms rather than having to have an adjuster look at every picture? So we are seeing that, but you need a smarter platform and smarter content.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I've just before we get on to our last question, actually, I just wanted to let the audience know, I've popped if you wanted more information on the topics we've been talking about today, I've popped up a link to alfresco.com/ICCS. Feel free to visit that website for to delve into some of the topics that we've discussed, as well as get a complimentary copy of a latest Forrester Wave in this area on ECM content platforms. I'll just leave that hanging there while we move on to the fourth and final question. So we've talked a lot about content. I mean, this has all been about how the efficiencies can be gained in the claims process by better management fundamentally of content. But content is obviously the small, if you like, the small part of the challenge. The content processing system itself is where these people spend most of their time, where the people that are working with the claims spend most of their time. So what advice would you have to the people on the line around how claims processing systems and content services platforms can coexist seamlessly together? What can be done to make that coexistence as seamless as possible? We'll take that one to Dave first.
I think the piece as far as that slide I had as far as recognizing who owns the data, that's where we recommend people start, right? Is to say that, hey, the claim number, the policy number, that's all going to be managed over here. And this is going to be a supportive doc management focus of it. And then just how do these two integrate? So, for our clients that have been successful, it's clearly defining through user stories, hey, what are the scenarios that we're looking for efficiency on? And to Sandy's point, when I'm looking at data and I need documents to back it up, how can I get to those very quickly, and vice versa?
And yeah, just to follow on with that a little bit, it's I've been sort of since the 1990s, I've been designing how we have content management systems that work together with line of business systems. And Dave, I have to confess, having run a systems integration company in the 1990s, I'm probably responsible for some of those legacy content management systems out there. But it's the thing that it always came back to there is designing that integration between the two systems, designing the integration between your line of business system and your content management system, or a process management system if you're using one of those as well, and getting the right amount of information. It is a there's certainly a science to, but there's a bit of an art to it as well. You need to make sure that you are replicating information that provides value in the content management system in terms of metadata, but not replicating so much that you end up with a lot of overhead if data changes. So that it's that design of that integration is really the key point to how useful for a claims adjuster that this that integration is going to be.
Right, and from a sort of there's a level of integration which is the sort of technical integration as well. But what about the user experience and sort of having a sort of seamless user experience between the two worlds, or can indeed the user be sort of almost abstracted from the fact that they are two systems? I mean, why should the user have to care, right?
I think that's really the best, is to have that abstraction, and this is why I think a lot of companies are doing portals that tuck away the systems behind it. Now, so that it's sort of seen as a single workbench. We see that in a lot of case management, more generalized case management, where you think about having a 360-degree view that might include data from a number of different sources. It might not just be the claim system and the content management system. You could be pulling information from other sources, from public sources and so on, that could impact the claim as well. So the idea of having this consolidated 360-degree view, the content management and the claims management system are just two components of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, you know what? I think that's all we've got time for today. So we're going to have to wrap it up there. But Sandy, Dave, it's been a real pleasure talking to you today. Thank you so much for attending. I think, yeah, as I say, thank you very much to our audience for attending. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion and hopefully learned something. And as I say, feel free to visit alfresco.com/ICCS for more information on many of the topics we've discussed. And